Hey guys, I'm Sam Mackenzie Armstrong from Headshot Soho, and you are listening to the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast, and I'm your host Savia Rocks, and today I'm humbled and lucky enough to have Sam Mackenzie Armstrong with me, who is a professional photographer. That's how I'm going to class you, Sam, because you are. And
Thank you.
How are you, hun? How's it going?
I'm really good. Yeah, really good. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Yeah, the day's been hectic. Technology has its wicked way with me, but other than that, it's not too bad. So you are the owner of Headshot Soho, which is a photo studio. And
it is, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about it and how you got into it.
Oh, it's a really lovely story. So basically, I was at university doing a French and politics degree, and that wrapped up in 1999. And then I kind of thought, well, okay, there wasn't really much options for the languages going forward with jobs. So I kind of bumped into a chain of jobs, about three, which kind of I enjoyed, but I didn't ever feel passionate about. The first one, I ended up working in the publishers, which sounds glamorous, but they were software books that I was making. And
the way you say
it. But it was interesting on a practical level because I got to work with designers. I understood how the flow of book publishing goes, and work with writers and designers and printers, and that was good experience. But again, I didn't feel passionate about it. I never had the same passion my manager had for that. So then I moved on to another job, and a friend of mine was working at what was Carlton TV. It's now ITV, and we were selling the rights to TV programs and films to countries in Middle East and Asia and Australasia. And that was good fun. I worked there when the Queen Mother passed away, and I remember being called in on a Saturday. Got called in on a Saturday because we had to suddenly sell a documentary about her. That was kind of fast-paced sort of living, working in a TV company there. But then again, it still didn't quite, it was good, but it didn't quite hook me. I wasn't crazy about it. And then I went from there to work for a magazine title, and I sold advertising space across the entire magazine. And all the time, and again, not exactly, a good job, but there wasn't any hook there. But all the time, underneath the surface, there was this desire to do photography. And one day at the magazine, the photographer didn't turn up for an interview, and they were completely stuck because this was someone they really wanted, to promote. And so they gave me a camera and said, "Look, you got to go and do it." So me and this guy they were interviewing, we were sort of running around London with a camera, and I took some really good photos of him, and one of them actually got used for the cover, I was like, wow, I never expected that to happen.
It's usually when you don't expect it, that's when things happen for you.
That's right, it really is actually. And when you take risks as well, calculate good.
That's one thing I love about life is risks.
Oh God, yeah, they're great to take, they really are. And I kind of got inspired by the fact this has been published, and my mum who sat with me now will remember me saying, "Mum, I'm going to open a photography studio," and she was, "Okay, are you sure?" And this was a big risk to do, so I somehow got myself out of that job and supported for a while, and literally bought the equipment I needed and opened a photography studio in the studio flat that I was living in at the time. I got some advertising space in. This is kind of just before Google became essential, just before. So I think I got some advertising space in Yellow Pages, and I got clients just like that. I didn't add that. I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
Yeah, so I had absolutely no idea what area of photography I was going to go into at that time. I got introduced for a while to I don't know how this happened. I can't remember how this happened, but I ended up photographing clothes on mannequins for various people selling clothes. Do you remember when that was the thing, when there was lots and lots of websites with clothes on them, and that was the thing You know what I mean? Everyone opened a clothing website and would fill their spare bedroom with rails of clothes, and then that never worked. Then they didn't know what to do with all the clothes. Well, I bumped into a chain of people like that, and I ended up steaming clothes and photographing on mannequins. And I did a couple of weddings.
How do you find weddings, Sam?
Well, it's just like friends and family that got married, and they were like, "Oh, okay, let me do your wedding." And yeah, I guess I got a few opportunities, but all from different areas of photography. So, like, doing product photography, like clothes, all in my studio, and then friends' weddings. A friend of my mum's was a businesswoman, and she started up a new venture, and I managed to convince her to let me do some photography for that. And I just got bits, whatever I could. I was very resourceful, and just whatever I could get, I would do it. Even stuff for free. I mean, a friend of mine was starting out in the makeup industry at that time, makeup artist, and she was beginning. And me and her used to go on Model Mayhem. Do you remember Model Mayhem?
Yep.
And we used to get people to come around, and she'd make them over, and I'd photograph them. And we wouldn't make a penny out of this, but we'd just do it.
It was the love. It was just for the love of it. I can tell that you're a passionate person who genuinely loves what they're doing. You're not doing it for the money. We all need money to live. I'm going to be realistic, and it's nice to be able to talk to another photographer, because photographers understand photographers.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, and
oh god, we can seek each other out, can't we?
Yeah, and if we're going through a rough patch, you really know what a rough patch is. Whereas other people be like, "Oh no, you'll be fine." No, we're going through a rough patch. Where we understand what we're going through and how it affects us. Yeah. Really, like, even now for us, I believe I have so much compassion for anybody who is self-employed at the moment, and because the way things are, it can be absolutely horrendous to some people, and it can give people anxiety, and some people might have mental health, and it goes into those things that a lot of people don't understand necessarily how it is to be self-employed as well as be a photographer like us. So
yes, no, absolutely. I mean, when you're self-employed, it's different to when you're employed by a company, because I'm trying to find the right word, but the kind of the heart and soul of your. I'm trying to put this the right way so I don't look like a complete snob, because I'm not.
No, say it how it is. That's the whole point of the podcast.
Well, I think if you're employed by a company and you have a great job and you love it, that's fine. But because the company does all its own promotion, and the company is its own thing and kind of drives itself because of its own weight, you don't have that sense of ownership over. I mean, you're obviously very possessive, very proud of your jobs. Yeah, but self-employment takes up so much more of your body and your soul, and
because you're in charge of everything.
Yes, and it's your dreams you're putting out there, and it's your dreams that you're promoting. And when that gets threatened, it hurts on a personal level, possibly a little bit more, I would say, than someone who's employed by a company. I don't know. I mean, that's just what I feel. I remember when I was employed by companies, I never had this level of involvement with the existence of my job. I remember thinking, well, if I lost this job, I'll just get another one. But because this is my passion, yeah, I mean, I don't. It would be heartbreak if I had to swap this for something else, I think is what I'm saying. Whereas I think if I was just in one of the other jobs that I was talking about, I wouldn't be looking.
You wouldn't care as much.
No, not really. I'd just be thinking, oh, something else will come along. But this is much deeper.
So it's a passion. Yeah. I think you feel a connection to it more than you've ever felt with anything else.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this is it. I found what I want to do with my life. I don't want to do anything else.
After you picked up the camera, Sam, and you took those pictures, how did it make you feel? Seeing it on the back of the screen, even before it was published.
Nervous, excited. Well, nervous because one thing I've learned with the camera, and I don't know if you get this, Savia, but I think there is such a thing, maybe for some photographers, but not for others, but photographers, stage fright. And I think it happens early on in the career, because you're also expected to, as a professional photographer, to deliver results. Yeah, and there's nothing worse than when people want to look on the back of your camera after you've taken a dozen photos. Oh, can I have a look? It's one of the worst things about working with digital.
Yeah.
Sometimes I was a film photographer, and then that moment, especially when you're new at the job, and those moments when you think, oh my god, will they like the photos? Will they like the photos? And then I think you develop a style for yourself, and then become very confident. And then after a while, if people mumble about the shots on the back of the camera negatively, you think you're not the photographer. You get a bit more confident. But yeah, that's. You know what I mean? You can brush that. But when you're
took
new
the
to the
thoughts out of
game,
my head. You said exactly what I say when someone says something to me.
these days, when someone's, I was going through some photos a minute ago, and some old corporate stuff, and I remember photographs that I'd retouched. I remember somebody I'd retouched who said I'd retouched them too much, and I remember thinking, well, no, actually, I don't think I retouched you enough, or actually, you maybe want to cut that one. So actually, that's not good.
Oh man, I've had that before as well. I was like, oh, there's no amount of blends that could help you right now.
Exactly. We need a tub of Vaseline.
Oh wow!
I didn't go far enough.
Oh, there. You talk about your studio, Sam. How did it? I know you told me about how you got into photography, but how did the studio come about? Because I know there's a process from having a dream and knowing what you want to do to actually making your dream happen. So, how was it for you actually transitioning from doing day jobs, where it's like a 9 to 5, to actually becoming a photographer and saying, this is what I want to do. I've now got a studio. How am I going to sell myself? How did it all happen for you?
Well, basically I was, I got my first bit of advertising in the yellow pages, and I wasn't knowing what was coming, and all these different types were coming to me. But one distinct branch of photography was coming at me, and that was corporate, because I kept getting, because this the early days, this was end of MySpace, start of Facebook. Yeah, I'm that old. And
no, you're the same as me. It's like, I think there was even High Five at one point, but that was ages ago.
God,
yeah. See?
Yeah, and I think LinkedIn was just coming in, and so digital and online was just it had been around, but it was starting to become much more personal, and this whole age we live in now, where everyone's got multiple social media accounts, and everyone needs a photo, and so this word headshot that I'd never heard of started being spoken about, and then very quickly, my clients went from 20% to 30% to 40% to 50%. People wanting headshots for business, for the company website, for their own online LinkedIn profile. And I suddenly realized, oh my God, this is actually something which is really quite viable. And therefore, I updated my website. After about a year, I updated my website and came up with the name Headshot Soho. I lived in Soho, or near Soho, and thought that locates me. It's nice and central. And then Headshot, well, that's does what it says on the tin.
Yep.
And basically just became a headshot and portrait photographer. And I'm really glad I did, because I love photographing people and their faces, their heads. I'm really into heads. The heads are great. It's wonderful. It's really nice getting someone to be relaxed and taking their photo and communicating with them, finding something out about them, establishing what you have in common or what you don't, and using that and to just take some time and take a really nice promotional headshot or portrait of them. And so that's how it transitioned. And really running a studio comes with all single-handedly, without assistance as well, comes with a lot of extra responsibility. You have to be not only the photographer, but also the retoucher, and you have to be the accountant and the cleaner, the engineer, everything. And I in the first sort of 4 or 5 years of operation, I was working 15 hours a day, but I don't regret it. because I had that hook. I talked about the hook with my previous jobs, how there wasn't one, but with this, I knew I'd found myself something that I loved to find.
Do you feel like, Sam, you still have that hook towards photography? And does it build every day, or does it go less every day? How do you feel about it now compared to before?
It doesn't ever plateau. It just keeps growing. And you just keep finding new things to discover, new ideas. There's always something new to learn, and it's great because you can do a bit of commercial photography and earn some money. But then, as we've talked about, doing things just for the pleasure of it, you can also use photography as a way to relax. And there's always something new to learn, always a new technique to learn. I love it, and my passion for it keeps growing, and I just really miss it with the lockdown. It's really. I think for me right now, I think it's I miss it a lot also, and I know where you're coming from when it comes to it. I think that's why doing this for people gives them a chance to give them that outlet in what they're passionate about, because at the moment there are so many people who obviously are locked inside and they can't talk about what they're passionate about and what they love. But me being able to share it for you gives me some feeling of compassion and relief for everyone, if that makes any sense. It makes a lot of sense. I think it's great what you're doing, and actually I would say to anyone that's in lockdown now, not knowing, despairing, I think this is a great time to decide what you are passionate about, because
definitely.
And if you're a photographer, who's kind of locked down and can't work, this is a really good time, as I've been doing, to look through everything you've ever shot. Get it all in order, because I was so busy running the business that I used to the way I backed things up was this a bit chaotic. I've been putting that all in order and looking through old photographs, and there's stuff that I've taken that it's taken with older cameras now, and you can tell, but then create some nice actions on Photoshop, and then you can then make them look really, really good. And it's a good chance to review what you've done over the last few years as a photographer, and touch up some photos that you'd forgotten about, and that's really great. And I would say to anyone that's thinking about getting into photography or struggling with what they want to do, or this is a really good time to find out what you are passionate about and make some plans, and get yourself ready for when things do get to some kind of semblance of what they were, because you might not get this kind of break again. So
that's true.
That's my message.
What's your typical day like, Sam, when you're in a studio?
There's firstly, there's not really much. Hang on, I'll start that sentence again. Okay, well, hang on, and again. Let me take a breath. So I don't really get like a typical day. I get days when there's nothing going on, and this is how it usually happens. So work doesn't tend to spread itself out when you're self-employed. Yeah. It usually comes exactly like the toast will fall the buttered side down onto the carpet when you drop the piece of toast. Yep. The work will come in clusters. I know we talk a lot about clusters these days. So the work will come in clusters, and you'll basically land a great job on, let's say, the 15th of July, and then you'll think that's brilliant, and then you'll get another email and it'll say, we'd really love you to do this, and you're like, oh, brilliant, today's my lucky day, I've got another job. We want you on the 15th of July, and we're like, oh no. And then you have to kind of, you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and then you'll typically get something that comes to squeeze itself in between that. And so I kind of basically have two types of day. One day when I have nothing, and then another day when I'm basically running around. So I'll be up at 7 and I'll get myself prepared, because I think you have to be prepared yourself for a long day.
That is true.
So that's getting up and just sort of clearing my head and sort of getting prepared, and on a practical level, I've got to make sure there's enough card space, so I kind of clean out some cards, back up some photos, so I've got some card space. Are my batteries charged? Are my lenses packed correctly in my case? What other jobs I'm going to do today? What kind of lighting, do I need? Shall I take this? And so, after about an hour of getting myself mentally prepared, I'll get myself practically prepared by making sure my kit is all ready.
Yeah.
And then the third thing, and when you're self-employed and you are the face of your business, is the third thing is to spend another hour getting yourself kind of dressed up smart. So, take care of yourself, make sure the skin is clean, you smell good, and the clothes look good, and you've got a good presence going out there. And
Most definitely.
I think that being in lockdown, that's one of the things I've missed doing, is actually getting nice and smart and ready.
Aww.
But but I think one of the things I've learned about being a freelance photographer is that it's considered when you are kind of doing corporate stuff and you're going into offices and things, corporate people generally view photography as an art, as do I, and so they don't really expect you to kind of dress too smartly. So when I say get yourself ready, I mean I dress in quite a trendy way, but then I put a nice jacket on top of that, so it's kind of making myself feel good and looking the part, a little bit corporate with a jacket, but also a little bit creative and arty as well, and getting that appearance right, and then hit the road and just go out there, enjoy meeting people, and just really, really throw yourself into the passion. And that's what I do on a really busy day, is I just get completely immersed and obsessed with the way things look, the images look and all that kind of thing. And I really believe that you're no better than your last photo shoot. I think that's a lot of things in performance. Yeah, and I think in performance and art, that's very true. You're only as good as your last photo, so I always keep that in my mind on a day when I'm shooting, that this is not a rehearsal photo shoot, this is the actual photo shoot, so you've got to be ready. I don't know if you've had this before either, Savia, when you've been around other photographers on a photo shoot and it all gets a little bit competitive and everyone's going in for the best shot.
To be honest, Sam, the funny thing is, when I'm in a photo shoot, I find that for some reason, and I don't mean this in any way, men seem to give me more pressure than women do. Like, I'm always the only one girl for some reason. I don't know why, but I don't know why. And I'm really humble to everything that comes in my life, and I really have like gratitude for everything. So when it comes my way, I'm really like, oh, okay, no, this is good. Okay, guys, what do you think we should do? I'm always open to ideas, but for some reason, the guys always want to compete. What camera do you got? What lenses do you have? Before I've even started anything. And that's not what it's about for me, which I can clearly see is not about for you also. But it's just strange.
Yeah, and I find it very annoying and frustrating, actually, when people get like that, because it's not fun.
You're there to work together. So to me, it's about making something beautiful with a group of people who have that creativity and passion. That's what it is about for me. Yeah,
and sharing knowledge as well, and encouraging each other. Yes, I mean, I when people do that to me in groups, I hate that. But
what do you do, Sam, when people do that to you?
What do I do? I kind of just back off, really. I just don't want to get involved in it when I sort of get negativity like that, or get, find myself surrounded by envious or jealous or competitive other photographers. I just sort of don't engage, really. I just stick to what my own ethos is that I'm only as good as my last photo. I'm going to try my hardest, and that's all I can do. I'm not going to sort of get down about it or kind of obsessed by it. I'm thinking to one photo shoot in particular where, and because it was an annual event surrounding the Chelsea Flower Show, such like a couturier in Chelsea, and he basically, or his PR basically, invited me to do photos for his website, and then also a press photographer to get the shots for the press. And they're two different types of photography. Like, press photography is quick, I don't want to say cheap, but quick and easy shots that will just go straight onto social media, kind of, the Sun, the Mirror, whatever, and that's fine. but because I was trying to catch really nice artistic shots. It was a different type of thing. But this guy, I saw him 3 years running, was almost pushing me out of the way. Do you know what I mean? Or he'd sort of watch what angles I was getting, and then come and basically stand in front of me. And it used to drive me mad. I really used to get crazy about it. But I was like, no, stay calm.
Maybe he saw you as a threat more than anything else.
That's what I always think. I think that's
when people are jealous of the fact that you have the ability to see something that they just can't see, a lot of people get threatened by that. And to me, I would say to you, Sam, if anyone ever done that to you again, I would say take it as a compliment. I know it's weird to say that. Take it as a compliment, because you're the one who is coming out with the ideas.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. I definitely will. Not let that stress me out.
I think a lot of the time people are out there to stress you out because they're stressed themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Or they want to share the stress.
Yeah, they want to share the stress. Stress is free. I'll give you some.
Yeah, how about some of this stress,
It's like tax.
Why aren't you
It's like the tax man. When the tax man taxes you, you're like, oh, this is stressful.
I know. Oh, well, it's because, you're right, stress is free. They're like, or they want to know, how come you're not as stressed as me? you should be, I'm angry that you're not as stressed as me. And I think that's a lot of it. I find that when you're getting on a busy tube train and, someone just sort of barges in front of you or something, I think that's like, you should be as stressed as me. It's not funny or not.
Oh, dear. What is the one best photo you've ever taken, or you think you've taken so far to date?
I should have been ready for that question, shouldn't I? There's lots, actually. Let me try and think on the spot. I know it's weird, but actually it's not really weird. But you would think it would be something quite epic, sort of. But it's actually just a very simple PR shot that I took of an entrepreneur who came around the studio one evening, and the light was just right, because in my studio I've got big windows with the Soho backdrop on them, and it was going into it was a red sky at night thing. He came quite late, and we didn't have long because he was a very, very busy guy, and he just kind of sat on a chair in front of the window, and I put a soft light on him, and he kind of put his elbow on his knees and then put his kind of his chin on his hands kind of crossed. It's quite a casual sort of contemplative looking shot, and he was prepared to pay me for like the full hour and a half, but he only wanted to stay about 15 minutes because his phone was ping 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 and he was busy. So I got about 15 frames of him, but they're just really nice photos. It's just the composition of everything just looked really nice, and everything was right at that time. That definitely is one of my favorites. Another one that I took, let me think. We're not on live radio, so I can think about this one a bit quickly. It's a very poignant question you've asked, and I probably will remember it as soon as we're off. But
that's always the case. Anytime.
Yeah, exactly. I once was in Johannesburg in South Africa, and I really wanted to. Where we'd gone was a place called Sandton, which is a suburb of Johannesburg, and I was there with a friend, and we were in South Africa for a holiday, and I wanted to go to what they call the central business district of Johannesburg and capture it as it was, because I'd seen so much written about it, and I wanted to just capture it, and trying to convince the hotel drivers to take me into there. I wanted to go late at night as well, and it was very, very difficult. No one would take me, and then eventually, after the concierge lady had rung about 8 people, finally someone agreed to take me in at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and we drove into Johannesburg. And he said to me, basically, look, you want to take photographs? If you do, just tell me and I'll stop where I can. And you just wind the window down a few inches and point your lens through, take the pictures, and then we go. And every time I did that, the vehicle was being chased. And so after about, it was absolutely a very, very surreal experience. But I kind of love taking a bit of a risk, and so I wanted to that time. And then we were driving around, and I was thinking, I just want something that's really interesting. And then I saw this little boy, probably no higher than, I'm about 6 foot, so he's probably about 2 feet high, and no clothes on, walking around the centre of Johannesburg at about 1:30 in the morning. And I said, there, stop. And he stopped his car, and I wound down the window, and I took a picture of this, and I have it somewhere. But it's absolutely incredible, and it's set around all these kind of skyscraper buildings, and it's one child on their own. I think that's probably the most emotional photograph I've ever taken, and that was one hell of a photo shoot. That was probably the most fortunate photo shoot I've ever done, because it's just such crazy thing to do. And that one definitely pops into my mind. What else did I do? I can't think right now. I'm trying to rack my brain.
It's hard when you're trying to think on the spot.
Yeah. I like New York as well, and I've been a few times to New York, and done just photographed people on the streets just walking around, and done street photography in New York. And I've got some really great shots from there as well. Absolutely love it. New York is a wonderful place to shoot, because, it's not entirely true what they say about it being the city that never sleeps. There are large chunks of it that do go to sleep.
Yeah,
but there is like a central area. Yeah, but there is a central area that is always bright all the time. And like Hell's Kitchen in that area of New York, it's full of bright lights. And everyone in New York, it's not like London, where London's to an extent, quite a private city. But New York is, if you're walking down the street, it's really surprising. You put even a vaguely trendy T-shirt. People go, "Oh my God, you look great! My God, your T-shirt is everything." They'll say that to you, get in your face. Your T-shirt is everything. It's like. So it's really easy to just take photos of people in New York on the street. You walk past them and you just go, "Oh my God, you look amazing!" And they're like, "Thanks, I'm a photographer. Can I take a picture?" Sure.
Yeah.
So I've come away from New York with so many good shots before. So that's that would be one of the kind of edgier shoots I've done as well. So there's 3 examples. Johannesburg was something I got something out of that which I would love to, and I still keep meaning to submit to a photography competition.
Yeah.
And New York was good street photography, and then the first example I gave you of the guy in my studio was kind of like a really good corporate one that I remember doing.
Is there any photography shoot that you regret doing? Like you're like, "Oh my gosh."
Well, do you? I don't know how. Okay, yes, absolutely. Do you remember I told you about those websites where people sold clothes from, and I would steam the clothes and put them on mannequins? Yes, basically all of those. They were very stressful. Product photography. I don't want to put anyone, actually product photography is quite a lucrative area to go into, but it's one of the most stressful areas to go into, because there's actually a lot of legal stuff around misrepresentation of things like colors. And so if you're photographing clothing, now you'll know, Savia, that a camera can only read a certain number of color variations. And designers tend to use a multitude of color variations. So
that's when we're editing as well. The color will differ.
Yes.
And change.
Oh my God, those lonely late nights spent in Lightroom and Photoshop.
Oh, tell me about it.
And then it looks different color on every device you look at it on, and you're checking the iPhone in the laptop, and oh my God, all those times doing clothing photography were, you can tell I love photography. I'm still doing it after those jobs. Those were pretty stressful. I think some of the other early commissions I got in the early days of the studio, were a little bit stressful and as well. This is quite funny, but I actually got contacted by, this is also when I mentioned earlier, a friend of mine who was the makeup artist, and we used to do these Model Mayhem free shoots thing. I got somebody call me and she said, I need some personal pictures doing. And I don't think I quite, took enough from what she meant by personal. But she hired a makeup artist, and I got my friend to come along, who by that time was on a course with Carol Hayes, who's a big makeup school, and she's really getting good at it. And so we hired her. And it turned up that she offered personal services, if you know what I mean.
Oh.
And yes, and out came a bunch of like French maids outfits and stockings and stuff like that. And my friend, the makeup artist, at one point just put her brush down and put her powder down and said, I'm going to press a monitor. I can't be in, she didn't say it in front of the client. She kind of whispered it in my ear, but she's like, I can't be here anymore. And I remember that one being a bit weird. So when you're just advertising for anybody, like I did in the early days of the studio, there was a few clients. Yeah, that would be one of them.
Do you find that business is business? Because, like, say, for instance, you've done one of those shoots. Do you find it just as business is business because anyone can come to you at any given time with any kind of idea for a photo shoot, whereas other people might take it personally, but for us, it might be classed as just business and we just do the photos and that's it. But for other people, they will reject it, if that makes any sense. Do you sometimes have that in you to reject something if it's been presented to you?
But it depends on if it's business we're talking about, then yes, increasingly, and I think this is something that happens to you as you progress through your career as a photographer.
Yeah.
I think at the beginning there's a tendency to want to do everything you can, or everything that gets thrown at you, because you feel lucky and fortunate. And of course that's a good way to feel, and you need to be able to do all of the. It's hard to work out what your favorite type of photography or ideas that you like to go with are until you've tried them all. And I think once you've tried a few, as you go along, then you start to get in the position where you think, well, I've done that and that did not work out well, so no. But then at the end of the day, like you said, we need to pay our bills.
Yep.
So sometimes I will say, if there's an idea I don't like, I will say, well, look, at the end of the day, for me to do this, if I'm in the position, if business has been good for a month and I'm in the position to turn a job down because I don't like the idea of it, then I will do so. But if I need to put food on my table, I sometimes have to capitulate a little bit and do it. So it depends. It really depends. I mean, I don't think there's examples. I think I just pretty much, to be honest with you, just about accept all the work that's given to me, really, commercially. But there are definitely a few times when I said, no, I won't. And I think sometimes it's important not to do the stuff that you don't like the idea of. Sometimes it is good to have a few standards, because you have to protect yourself, and you don't want to spoil your enthusiasm for what you're doing.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, I think in these situations, just be very, very wise and very cautious.
Mindful.
Yes, mindful, definitely.
Who is the one person, Sam, who you can say has supported you and pushed you to do what you're doing today, up to this point?
This is really sweet because she's sat here right next to me. It's my mum.
Hey, Mommy.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, my mum was there when I was in my last sort of, functional job. And she's the person I turned to when I said, look, I want to open a photography studio. She's the person who at the same time cautioned me as to what a risk it was, but also told me that it was important in life to take risks, and has supported me and championed me all the time since then. So it's definitely her.
Yeah?
Yes.
Are there any photographers out there that you would say you admire being a photographer, but is there anyone else out there who's a photographer whose work you could say, I actually admire them because they've done something different, they've come out of the box? Or
yeah, absolutely. I absolutely love looking at other photographers' work, and there are definitely lots of photographers that I really, really admire, and Yeah, I mean, it depends what discipline. I mean, in an artistic sense, there are
Yeah.
photographers that I love that are no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
From absolutely years ago. I'm going to just leave a pause because you might have to edit this bit while I can't remember her name.
It's okay. The fact that if you know who she is, that's enough.
Yeah, there was a wonderful American photographer, and she's one of my favorites. Why the hell I can't recall this right now, I don't know. But she took amazing portraits during the 1960s. And actually, it wasn't very common for women to be photographers in the 1960s. It was a little bit. It was a very progressive thing to do in the 60s. Strange times. But she took amazing photos, and she has her photos are exhibited still today. There's one photographer called Martin Parr who does these really high color sort of images, and he's done lots of ones on like British seaside resorts when it's been sunny, and so you'll get lots of people. They're so realistic and so funny, and a little bit sort of grotesque, but also just very, very tongue-in-cheek and really, really funny. Diane Arbus is the American female photographer of the 60s that I really like, and if you ever look at her work, it's just spellbinding. It's amazing. And Martin Parr, those are kind of like photographic heroes of mine, and one of my and there's so many photographers around in and around London at the moment. They're absolutely wonderful. There's a Scottish lady called Karen Stanley, who does a lot of contributions to the magazine Dazed and Confused, and her style is absolutely brilliant. It's like it's like reliving those collaborations that Grace Jones did in the 80s, where there was a lot of pastiche, where photos were taken and then, but it's shapes and things, color blocks added to them manually, you know, to create kind of collages and things like that. And she does a lot of things like that, and absolutely incredible. I'm really glad that's making a revival. I love looking at the other corporate photographers as well, and seeing what they're doing, and it's wonderful.
Oh. What's the funniest question that someone's ever asked you in photography? Like, say, for instance, I had an incident where I went out to do a shoot, and he was quite an elderly man, and he turned around and he said to me, "Do you know how to use your camera?" And but some people have some weird comments on what you do or how you do it, because sometimes people will look at you and judge you rather than just take you as you are and let you do your job, because you know as a professional that you're good at doing it and you love it. Has anyone ever said or asked you any really funny questions that you're like, huh?
Yeah, they have, and statements as well.
Oh yeah, there you go. Statement.
Just come out with stuff. Okay, so I mean, I've got a few tattoos. I like tattoos, and
you're creative, Sam. Is part of you.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think, and I think if I mix this with a little bit of smart fashion, it just looks really, really cool. Anyway, enough about me, but. Some people with tattoos, and this is unfortunately a little bit likely to happen in the corporate sector, but I just remember doing a shoot in some office block complex thing once, and I was doing it, and I think I had about 5 guys like lined up waiting to have their individual portrait taken in front of a bit of the office, and as I was taking this one guy's picture, one of his colleagues behind me was saying, and he was American because I can hear him saying it now in my head, he said, well, look at those tattoos, like, do you think he's been in prison?
Wow.
I'm taking it, I'm like, oh my god, okay, wow, sure, okay, I was actually gobsmacked by that. I was like, wow.
But then that shows you how ignorant they are as people, if they can just automatically put you in that box.
Absolutely, and also how what a sheltered life they've had. I mean, seriously, almost feel sorry for. I thought, poor you. You've had such a sheltered life. You think a person with tattoos must have been in prison, and also that's funny as well. So yeah, that was a weird one. But the thing that people, I don't know if you hear it that much anymore. There was a bit of discussion a couple of years ago about how is the smartphone replacing the single SLR camera?
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
And and so many people saying that to me on photo shoots. So many people saying that to me on photo shoots. And I've crafted the perfect response to that. And, basically what it is that, so when someone says to you, do you think that, your job will get replaced by smartphones now that everyone's got a smartphone and, a camera in their smartphone? And I say, not really. And I believe in this because, if I wanted to, I could build a nice wall, or I could, fix my own toilet. In fact, this is where I got this response from, was because I did have a problem with my toilet once, and something, I can't remember the name, broke, and I went online, I researched it, and 3 YouTube videos later, I plumbed my own toilet back in, fixed it. But it took 3 hours, and I literally drenched my bathroom, and it wasn't smooth. But the point is that, and I say to these people when they say to me, is your job going to get replaced by the smartphone? I think, well, not really, because, okay, you can take a photo with that, and I can basically fix my own toilet, but I don't want to become a plumber. And so you might have a camera in your smartphone, but you won't want to take pictures every day for the rest of your life, because it's they haven't got the passion for it. And I think that's my stock answer to that question. That's the question I hate getting asked all the time. Ugh.
What type of camera do you use, Sam, and why do you use that particular camera for yourself?
Well, the main one, of course, is the good old Canon 5D.
Yeah.
I've got the Mark III, and it's just a brilliant camera. I've also got a Mark 1, but I tend not to use it because it's really clunky and heavy. Yeah. And the Mark, the Mark 5 camera that I've got is absolutely, the 5D Mark III that I've got is just so lightweight, portable, very durable. It's just brilliant results from it, and I just completely trust it. And I actually, on my one, the little thing on the dial that tells you what setting you're on has actually fallen off. I know it so well. I know just by how many clicks. Yeah, I could use it in my sleep probably with a blindfold on. I just absolutely love that camera.
What's your favourite go-to lens?
Oh, my portrait lens, my non-retractable portrait lens that means that I have to move my models around, and they're always a bit like, how doesn't your lens retract? And I'm like, no, you go and move over there. Absolutely love it. It's so wonderful. It goes down to 1.8, and it's just absolutely gives an amazing black background blur. It's a Canon professional lens, and it's just one of the best lens I ever bought. It's so reliable, and really, if you're doing a Head and Shoulders, I couldn't live without it. I tried with other lenses, and it doesn't work. This one, I just hope that it's not discontinued, because one day it'll give up and I have to get another one. But I absolutely love it. It's one of those ones that's really small. It's not very deep, and it just sits on the camera mount. And clients sometimes look at it and think, that's a bit of a small lens. Because you ever find you get judged to the size of your lens? Unless you turn up with something massive sat on your camera.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to you about the guys when I was with the guys, and the guys said, "Oh, what camera you're using and what lens you're using." They would always pull out their 70 to 200 or their 70 to 400. I'm like, you don't need that right now.
It's so true.
You don't need that right now. Just pull out a 50mm or 85 and you're good to go. Why are you bringing it out?
Exactly. Well, they're probably seeing you and me, they're probably making up for other losses. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? But, and of course, we were talking about that. You can't
make up for those areas, Sam. You just can't.
No matter how many thousands of pounds you spend on a lens, no, you can't make up for that. No, but I just love my simple lens, and that's There you go. That's my lens.
What would you say is the best and worst thing about being a photographer?
No, the best thing is that you get to, I mean, actors, it's always actors that say it's the one job you do that you love. It's no, there are others, and photography is one of them. If you're passionate about photography, then yeah, it's doing a job that you love. The worst thing, well, not getting work, I suppose. It's a very bad feeling, but we need money to survive, and unfortunately, if you get a period when no one's hiring you, that can be a bit, I think that's probably the worst part of it, to be honest with you. I can't think of anything else that's bad about it. Just that, really. If you're a professional, that's the only, I mean, I once heard an actress say, I think I must have been photographing her, and I was asking her what the best, thing about being an actress was, and she said, getting hired for a job. And she said, because everything else is down. She goes, because once you start the job, it's going to end, and then you're going to be wanting a gig for ages. Yeah. And whilst I don't feel that about photography, I think, but for a number of like artistic professions, I think it's not getting hired is the big downer. But you can, like I said, you can use a downtime like lockdown to learn new skills and improve.
Do you find that a lot of photographers sometimes undercut other photographers? Because, like, say we all have a price that we choose for our photography, which is what we feel we are worth in our value because of the work we do, the editing we do, and how we do it. But do you find there are a lot of people out there who are just calling themselves photographers and undercutting real people who have a passion for photography out there?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. There's that. There's, sadly, I do. I mean, there's not really much you can do about that either. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's like with any kind of service, if you don't pay a reasonable price for your photography, you're not going to get the results.
True.
I've had corporate clients in the past who have maybe done 3 or 4 shoots with me. So, during the course of a year, they'll have hired 4 or 5 staff, and I'll have been in 3 times to keep the website updated. And then I don't hear from them for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then I'm on a bus one day or something, and I'll go past their office, and I think, I haven't heard from those for a couple of years. And then you'll hear from them, and they'll, can you come and do a new starter? Or actually, we've got 5 new starters, and go in and you do a photo shoot. And I was like, it's been a long time since I was here. And they were like, yeah, well, we did actually get another photographer in, but, it didn't really kind of like work out. And you think, I know what happened there. I was too expensive.
Yeah,
your accountant, yeah, and so your accountant said to you, you've got to stop spending so much money on photographers. You then got someone cheaper in who then completely messed it up. And your marketing team then said, don't use that. Why can't we have the original photographer back? I think, undercutting might be a way of some people's way of getting in, maybe sometimes, or getting a foothold. Perhaps maybe you should sort of expect it, and maybe, I don't know, but then I think it's very annoying, definitely very annoying, knowing that people that have put a lot of preparation and heart and soul into doing things really, really well, will then just get undercut, and that's obviously very cruel. So just one of those sad facts of life, really.
No, that's true. That is really true. Where do you get your creativity from when you're feeling uninspired? How do you get back to being Sam again when you're not feeling like Sam?
This is something which is absolutely, I love this. Oh my God, because I am happiest when I am completely manic. Not like, mental health manic, but, kind of just a bit, I just love being a bit sort of, crazy. And I, you know what I mean? In a crazy but fun. I just love being crazy but fun and sort of jumping on new ideas and being silly. And I like those kind of vibrations. And so I just go in search of them wherever I think I go in, if I'm feeling uninspired, I go in search of excitement, and that will get everything going again. That'll get the system moving again. So that could be watching a film. If all I can do is watch a film, I'll watch a film. I'll choose something that really gets me excited. There was a crazy performance artist called Lee Bowery, and I've watched it too many times now, it doesn't work anymore, but I used to watch a documentary about him because his creative processes were so bizarre that I used to sort of think, well, get inspired from that. I think London itself as a city, you can just go out and get inspired. I used to love going into sort of the places in Soho or Shoreditch where you've got a real sense of sort of art going on, and just being around that. I think going nightclubbing for me has always been a source of inspiration. Always, gone out for a really real proper night out, and then you usually come away having met someone that's inspired you or done something that's inspired you. And so basically, I just chase excitement wherever I can find it in whatever form. Here on lockdown, I'm in the countryside with my mum on lockdown, and I've been doing a lot of bike riding, and so I love just cycling for miles and miles and miles. And
that must be one of the most beautiful things in a way, because in London you can't necessarily do that because there's always like a big building in front of you or a bus.
That's true. Yeah, no, you can't. It's been totally refreshing. It really, really has. But really going fast on the mountain bike and going off the road and onto bits of countryside, and it's just that's been very clearing. But I think that when I get a bit uninspired and start to feel really sort of bland and kind of and there's nothing to really make me feel fired up and excited, I just wherever I am, I'll go for something that's somewhere there's some excitement. I think in London is totally different options to the country. I'm waffling now, sorry.
Oh, it's all right. It's fine. What is the one incident in your life that has made you reevaluate your creativity? So has something happened to you in your life, good or bad, that has made you think, oh my gosh, I really need to reevaluate what I do and how I do things to make me a more positive or even better person in what I'm doing?
Okay, let me a minute to think about this one. I mean, this doesn't have to be photography related, does it?
Not at all.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, very sadly for us, last year we lost my brother, which was a very, very sad loss for us. And it was very, very difficult to deal with. When I came back to stay with my family for a while at the end of last year, and when I went back to London at the beginning of January, I started getting into it again, and started getting on the tube and stuff, and people sort of pushing you out of the way or stressing and stuff. And I just see that one experience, losing my brother, taught me that life is so short. And actually lockdown is having a similar effect. It's teaching me that life is very, very short.
Yeah.
But I remember being on the tube in early January and just looking at people stressing, running for a train when they know that there are 4 trains coming in the next minute, but they have to jump on that train and just about make it into the carriage with the doors closing on them. That kind of obsession to stress and anxiety, I really find that losing my brother has taught me not to worry about that, and that these smaller details, and also what we were talking about earlier about competition and stress and anxiety, and it's just not worth it. It really isn't worth it. I know that now more than ever. Absolutely.
Was there ever a point in your career where you felt like you wanted to give up, and because it was lack of money, lack of funds, lack of support, what did you do to build yourself up again? I think there's been a few times. Let me just think of that. I can put this in a good, nice, succinct way for you. I always say to people when they come on the podcast show, Sam, is to say it how you feel it. Be who you are. This podcast is not about you having to be in some professional, formal way. If I'm not that way, I don't expect my guests to be that way. So I always say to people, answer from your heart, because to me, that is the most realist thing you can do for any listener who is listening.
Okay, well, in that case, so yeah, there's just one time that's flashing through my mind now. And it was when I was at the Houses of Parliament, bizarrely. I was working for a company and they had a global conference in London. Yeah. And I've mainly been doing boring headshots in a hotel room where the conference was being held. And then suddenly they came up to me and they're like, oh my God, we're now taking all the delegates on a bus trip around London, and they're going to go to the London Eye, go on the London Eye, and then cross Westminster Bridge, and then they're going to have dinner at the Houses of Parliament. I was like, okay. And they didn't tell me about this. So anyway, fast forward through all that, and I end up on the terrace at the Houses of Parliament, and I've got... Now, they hired a logistics company to help organise them into a group, because there's a lot of security at the Houses of Parliament, obviously. But suddenly the logistics people disappeared, and I had 100 delegates from all around the world from this company to organise into a group that I could photograph nicely with the River Thames in the background. Mm-hmm. And I was stood there, and I had the security of the House of Parliament literally saying, you've got 2 minutes, okay. So obviously I wanted to die at that moment. And one of these delegates said to me, or shouted at me in front of everyone. I was trying to direct people, and the situation was making me feel very small and very under pressure, and I was panicking a little bit. And then he shouts to me, one of these delegates, just do your job.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, you should try being in my position. And I did it in the end. I got these people moved and got a few pictures, and it was fine. They liked it. It was in their annual report. But I went back to my studio that evening, and when I was downloading the pictures, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this. Wow. I can't do this. And then this voice just said to me in my head, why don't you just do what he said? And that seemed really like a radical thought, because I actually hated that guy for embarrassing me like that and making me feel really small. But I actually thought to myself, well, why don't I just do what he said? You know, like next time I'm in a position like that, obviously just, I don't know, maybe that's a call for me to be, I don't know.
Be who you are,
Yeah. But the person I was then stood on this bench trying to control 100 people. I wanted, like I said, I jokingly said I wanted to die. You know, next time, don't feel that. You know, next time, right, I'm on this bench and and just be more efficient. So I just think that's how I've been in situations when I've really regretted it and thought, okay, I'm going to give this up. And but now I think that weirdly, just try and grow from it, get something out of it, and grow and learn and grow from it, even if it is a harsh experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you prefer working? When I say this, people start laughing. But do you prefer working by yourself or with someone else?
Oh my God, by myself. I've handed my Photoshop over to assistants before, and I don't like what I see. I only ever like my own Photoshop.
Yeah, no, that makes
really?
sense.
No one can do it as good as I can.
No, that's fair enough. I thought your answer might be the same as mine, so I thought when I say it to you, you're going to say the same thing that I would say.
I tell you, one day, Savia, I did have an assistant on a shoot, and it was a friend of mine he was doing some sort of media degree at Bournemouth University, and he said he just needed it for work experience. And I said, okay. So I said, look, I'm doing a shoot in an office, and it was a bunch of like portraits with makeup artists and stuff. And it's the one time I took an assistant with me on a corporate photo shoot, and he dropped one of my flashes, one of the big ones, and just cracked and smashed it on the floor. And I was like, this is what happens when you hire assistants. And so from that, I would say that even though I have to work twice as hard without an assistant, I just want to go it alone, because then, you know, I just feel more comfortable that way, you know?
If you had to go back to one memory, Sam, what memory would it be, good or bad?
I always like to look on the good side, so I like to think of a good memory. So, let's see. A good memory to do with photography.
It doesn't have to do with photography necessarily. It's just one memory that helped you be the person that you are today.
I think because I wasn't born in London, but London is where I've lived my entire adult life, really, and that's where I've always wanted to live, and because I absolutely love the city, and I love big cities, and I love that. It's this memory I have was we did a family trip to London, 1987, and when we were approaching King's Cross on the train, just a new feeling of excitement, and just that first family trip to London, 1987, I was probably 9, and that's what kick-started this. I'm sure that's when it started, this need for excitement and inspiration, and that's where originally that's where it germinated, that's where it started. I always think of that as a lovely memory. And really, after I became obsessed with London, and then through becoming obsessed with London, I became obsessed with art and artistic people and art enclaves and just culture and just the whole life. Yeah. I love where I come from as well, in East Anglia, but it's really quite quiet, which is lovely. I mean, it's been lovely on lockdown, but I love living in the city, and I love all the creative ideas that come from living in the city and all the wonderful and weird things that take place there. And I know it happened on that day in 1987 when I got taken to London for the first time.
Oh. What's the one message that you would give to someone who wanted to start photography just like you had that passion to, but say they're first starting and they don't have any idea or any knowledge of photography? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I think, all photographers get asked this, don't they? What advice can you give me because I want to start out in photography? I seriously think that that as a corporate photographer, nobody, and I need to explain this before I tell you the answer to that, because nobody, with what I mainly do, nobody grows up and says, I want to be a corporate photographer.
That's true.
Do they? No, you find your way into that. And so in a way, because I don't play the piano and I can't sing and I don't have any of those sort of like traditional, what they call talents, like singing or being a dancer or whatever, I always sort of say to somebody who asks me, what I want to get into photography, I say, well, try and combine the photography with something that you love. And I always ask them, what do you love? And so they might say, well, I love football, and I say, well, then become a sports photographer. So I'd say that if you want to get into photography, try and merge it with something that you also love as well in life.
Yeah.
So people love fashion and clothes. I say, well, just, go for a fashion and beauty photographer. If people show sort of like an aptitude towards kind of, music, they love going to gigs and stuff like that, I'd say, become a music photographer.
True.
I would, that's the advice I would give. If you have another interest or you have another passion or something that you love doing, bring the photography to that and then watch them go together, because that would just be amazing. And I simply say that because I don't have I didn't come at photography from that experience of also having something else.
Yours is quite unique of how you even got into photography. I think it was calling for you, but maybe you didn't necessarily hear it at first.
I love that. That's wonderful. I've never heard anyone say that, but I think that's lovely. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure you're right as well.
But sometimes I know in life that we have so many things that maybe clouds our judgment of things, that we don't hear what's actually trying to call us, and we try and go in a different direction and a different path, thinking that that's the path for us. But all the time there's someone or something or even a positive energy that's trying to pull you away and say, no, this is for you, this is what you should be doing, and this is, I know your heart would be here, but we just have to take our time to get there, which is not a bad thing because we learn from it.
Absolutely. And then when you look back on it, sometimes it all seems to make sense.
Yeah, totally.
Even though it didn't at the time. That's great.
What makes you different from other photographers? I think I know, because even though I've just had this podcast with you, I could tell you a few things. But what makes you? No, it's true. What makes you different from other photographers?
I don't. Hang on, right? Okay, well, okay. You said speak from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm just really down to earth. I don't think I come with any kind of judgments or preconceptions, and I don't come with any kind of like overinflated sense of importance. And I'm happy to impart my knowledge and help advise and collaborate and make something turn out really well.
Yeah.
But I just don't make anyone feel small or anything like that. In fact, I do the opposite. I often help boost people and make them feel good. I would say that's what makes me stand out.
If you weren't doing photography, Sam, if I pulled photography completely out of the equation, what do you think you would be doing?
It's interesting, this, isn't it? And honestly, it's a really hard one to answer because I can't imagine my life without it. But I would probably maybe do something like spiritual. I'd like to spend some time engaging with spirit, and this is a subject that some people find difficult, but I think there's more to life than we can see. I'd love to spend some time exploring that, and also an interest in sort of mental well-being as well, so I could see myself counseling people or coaching people. But in some sort of way, I think if I was not a photographer, I would look for something along those lines.
Okay. My final question for you, Sam.
Okay.
Well, not my final question, but the last two. We've got two more.
Okay.
What is the one thing that you would say to your fans or your followers out there who don't know about you, but it has to come from your heart? What advice or what would you say to them that you've never said on a podcast before or you've never said on an interview, so that they can get to know who Sam is?
This is an interesting one. I think just enjoy life now and live in the present moment. Absolutely is that's what I want to tell people. That's what I tell the world, and that's what I think that lockdown has
done to people.
Tried. I think that if you're fortunate enough not to have got sick in lockdown, then lockdown was there to teach you that life is short and that there's not much time to waste, so just be happy and just go for it. That's what I'd say.
I think before lockdown, people thought that time wouldn't end, and they abused time.
Well, they thought, and they believed in permanence, and look how it was all just washed away like water along the shoreline, washing away things people have written on the beach. You know what I mean? Like when the waves washed away. Didn't it? It just came along and washed everything that we thought was so permanent away. And I just think that
the media helped with that too.
Yes. They're often to blame.
It's the way it's done, I think. I think it's more the way it's done. And finally, Sam, where can we find you? On any social media or Facebook, Instagram, if you have any of those, or just where in general, where can people find you?
Well, I'm located in Soho. First of all, physical presence is most important. So I'm at 3rd floor, 15 Bateman Street in Soho, and that is just around the corner from Ronnie Scott's and Soho Square. So it's a lovely location.
Yeah, it is.
So drop by and ring the doorbell, and if I'm free, you can come up for a coffee and we can talk about photography. Otherwise, the only social media presence I think I need for my corporate photography is LinkedIn. Sam Mackenzie Armstrong on LinkedIn, and my website address is headshotsoho.co.uk. Headshot. Oh my God, headshot-soho.london. Headshot-soho.london.
That's perfect.
Is my website. Yeah.
Sam, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Us People podcast today. You were
Thank
phenomenal. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. No, honestly, you were phenomenal. I think you're one of the best guests I've had on my podcast so far.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's very
So
sweet.
definitely. Hey guys, I want to
Do you
thank
wanna-
you so much. No, it's okay. Hey.
Oh.
No.
I mean, I just wanted to tell you that this is the first podcast I've been on.
Hey.
And, it was a lovely experience. So thank you.
I think it's just about how you perceive things and how you let people just be themselves. It's not about you having to be in a professional way or you having to portray to be someone that you're not. I listened to a lot of podcasts before I actually decided to do a podcast, and I realized a lot of the time that people were not being themselves. And that's not something I wanted. I'm a creative person. You're a creative person. You understand that we can be really wacky at the best of times, and then sometimes we can be really mellow and really quiet as well. So it's just being able to let people be themselves is really important. And yeah,
Absolutely, I agree with that.
So, hey guys, thank you so much for listening to the Yes People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and as always, please remember to subscribe to iTunes, Spotify, and every platform that you think we're on. We're definitely on. The only one we're not on is SoundCloud. And please always remember to stay happy, stay positive, and continue to be kind to one another.